now on to what could actually legitimately be the biggest game of the year. And no, I'm not talking about other games that just released in the last few days or Last of Us Part 2, but Animal Crossing.
Oh, you mean Corona
Animal
Crossing?
Crossing, Corona Crossing. I think, like, based on the numbers, they're already saying that Animal Crossing is almost selling as much as Last of Us Part 2, but Last of Us Part 2 is including digital and physical sales, whereas Animal Crossing is only including the physical sales. So I'm like, wow, this game is like so much bigger than we even realize. So there's a new update, so a summer update, which is highly offensive to us in Australia, given that it's winter and it's a winter update for
You know
us.
that? Oh,
So
let me say something about that.
yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
frustrates me to no end when websites and like a lot of I guess outlets say, "Oh, summer 2020,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. Or
they
fall, which is even
yeah,
worse.
and they do not clarify anything else. And I'm like, okay, now I have to go and look up exactly when summer is and make sure, like, okay, does that line up with my understanding?
What do you mean?
Like, because I don't
What are
set
you
it to
talking
memory
about?
when freaking summer is in the US so I can bring it up whenever I need it. Like, I have to actually remember that stuff. I have to look it up.
What?
I'm like, I don't know when summer is. I couldn't tell you now. Is it reverse of ours? Is it when it's winter here, it's summer there?
What? Oh my god. What are you
No,
talking
the
about?
exact months. I'm
Yes,
talking
of
about the
course.
month
Of
period.
course it's the opposite. Of course it's
Is
the
it the
opposite of
exact
us. What are
opposite
you
though?
talking
Like the
about?
3 month period of
Yes.
us, our winter is exact 3 month
Well,
there.
okay.
That's what I'm talking
So
about.
I'll give you credit a little bit that in the US, in a lot of places in the US, they count summer and winter a little bit differently than the way we count it. We count it as the 1st of December is summer and it's 3 months. In the US, it actually can be, I think, from the middle of, like, so if you're thinking about it, so then there's like 6 months difference. They can actually count it from, I think, the middle of June or like even
Yeah,
the month before the middle of
exactly.
June, depending on where
And
you
that's
are.
what I'm
But
talking about.
generally, it is just 6 months. No, no, no. Generally, it's just the opposite of
Okay,
us.
because
That's why I was laughing.
that's what I'm talking about is the exact like month periods. Because when someone says, "Oh, it's due in summer 2020," I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah, that's winter. That's now
what
for us.
potential months is that? Like, that's what I hate is that
Sure,
it's
sure.
like I know that obviously you got websites that you look at if they looked at their analytics and stuff like the vast majority of people are readers are American, right? I'm not saying that's
Oh
not the
yeah,
case,
oh yeah, or European.
but that's the thing. It's like European as well. Like, at least do something for
It's the
that.
same season.
Okay. Anyway,
What are you talking about? Do you not know that Europe has the same seasons as the US?
oh, what? But they're in different part of the freaking world. So how does that work? I don't know.
What are you talking about? Seasons are based on hemispheres, North and South hemispheres.
Anyway,
You should actually, okay, you should play Animal Crossing because in Animal Crossing you can play either the Northern Hemisphere or the Southern Hemisphere. And then you can learn about how the hemispheres
no,
work
but
in the
that's the thing
seasons.
is right. That's what I'm talking about. Is that I think that that stuff needs to be more inclusive to for all
Oh,
readers. For
yeah, I
all
agree.
readers, that's what I'm talking about.
It annoys me to no end when I read something and it says fall of 2020. We don't use the word fall in Australia. So I need to then count it out in my mind what the word fall means and then convert it into
You know
Australia.
what pissed me off the most is when uh, was it Bethesda was putting out Dishonored, and the word Dishonored is spelt with a U over here, right? Or honor,
Yeah.
dishonor. I'm like, okay, fair enough. They don't want to entitle the game that, but just I remember just like driving to uni or something like that, and having to see like a stay behind a bus for like 40 minutes that had the sign Dishonored. I'm like, spell it like, oh, we spell it when you're advertising to us. It's frustrating.
All I can say is I want to take you to a party. You sound like a lot of fun.
Oh, come on.
How do you explain the Labour Party, the Australian Labour Party
All
then?
right, let's move on.
So yeah, getting back to this update for the biggest game of the year. And you know what? Can I just, this is also going to tie into a segment we're going to talk about later. Game of the year. Is this game at all going to be in any consideration of game of the year? Animal Crossing. I mean, it's so beloved, but I feel like it's going to be so ignored in that space.
It depends on the outlet, really. I mean, The thing is, I don't consider Animal Crossing to be much of a game, so I don't think it probably deserves to
Oh,
be on Game of the Year lists. My opinion.
that's ridiculous. Of course, it's a game.
It's-
Anyway, so in terms of this update, so it's coming. It's actually live now by the time we've published this. So there's Dream Suite. So that was in prior games as well. It allows people to visit like a dream version of the player's island, where you can actually make changes to your island. There's also a firework feature, and then some further features around the camera mode. But probably the biggest announcement and inclusion in this update is finally, you can actually back up a version of your island to the cloud. Now, why is this critical? Something like my wife, I think she's put like 350 hours into Animal Crossing. So if her Switch malfunctioned and they couldn't repair it, she's just lost her island completely. She'd be devastated, to be honest. So what, like, and this is not a simple way they're going to do it. There's a couple of things we should point out here really quickly. You have to back it up and you have to manually back up the save data. So you should be doing this periodically. And then also to be able to recover it at the moment, you need to contact your local Nintendo support. So in Australia, you have to reach out to Nintendo Australia. And then there's like a flow chart that you have to follow, like whether you've actually sent it in to Nintendo or you haven't, or where your consoles are. And people aren't really sure what happens if you try to trick them, I guess, because the only reasons why they'll allow you to do this is if your Switch is damaged and not working, or it's been stolen or misplaced. So there's some people who are speculating that if you do this, they might brick the online functionality of your old Switch, which Nintendo has done that in the past, by the way. So like, yeah, it's a super clunky, Super Nintendo, and they've also said that yes, they will eventually, and I believe this year, introduce a feature where you can do this yourself, like through the normal Nintendo Switch Online cloud backup. So that is in the works, but that I think is probably going to be much later in the year, maybe November, December.
it's I'm shaking my head at this because why would you not just get those two things ready at once and just roll them out at the same time? You know, like your ability to transfer as well as your ability to, I guess, save.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think it's a very Nintendo thing, right? Where they're just bare minimalists with these kind of things. Like they strip everything back that they don't think is around the gameplay experience. Like it's going back to the point that we made around Splatoon 2, right? Like it's crazy how non-functional the lobby system is. But that's the version of the game that people play all the time. And they kind of get away with it. Even Smash Brothers is not great, and it's a lot better than it ever was before in terms of how you play it online and everything like that. Like the fact that I can't have like a mate at my house and we're playing on the same system and join an arena online in Smash Brothers is just crazy to me. It seems like no reason why you can't, but yeah, they don't allow it. So yeah, but this is a huge update. I know my wife's really happy about it. And she's literally like time traveling and trying to get back to every single day so she doesn't miss out on anything in this game. So, and it feels like they're going to have like a shed load of updates. And I'd imagine they would probably eventually have paid DLC in this game just because there's just so many units out there. It's just a gold mine for them. And are you going to be playing the game?
Look, I, what I said before sounded harsh, but I got to provide a bit of context. So I had the original Animal Crossing, or at least the original one for us on the GameCube, and I had fun with it.
Mm,
But I had more fun playing the NES games that you could unlock in that game than I did actually doing the main stuff, because I know that game was very bare bones compared to what Animal Crossing is these days. But I would much rather play something like Stardew Valley, where it just feels like there's more game to it. There's more, you know, I guess there's more structure to it. And like a game like My Time at Portia is an example of that as well. And obviously Harvest Moon, I loved Harvest Moon on the SNES and the 64 version, things like that. But
yeah.
I'm I know this the people love Animal Crossing. there are so many games out there, and I just like more structure from my games. So when I jokingly said, "Oh, I don't think it's much of a game," it's because I actually view it more of, I guess, like a social app or experience, as opposed to a video game in my head. Which I know
Mm.
is ridiculous. It's a video game, but I just don't. It when I classify things, it's something different. Just like there's a lot of weird games like was it that uh, Dreamcast game Seaman or something like that. Like these games
Oh
that
yeah, yeah.
are just kind of they're different. They're almost, I should say, it's probably like software as opposed to what I said about an app. It's like a piece of software that you interact with as opposed to a video game. So
Mm. Yeah, no, I get it. It's very distinct. It's certainly a game, but it's very distinct. Moving into business news, so